This is GABNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 7th year. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey, hey everybody. Hey, it's Alex. This is the Ramble, and we go until midnight tonight from the East Coast of the United States in New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, the man who's going to tell me when I need to retire, Larry Bubbles Brown. You're gonna listen to me, and if I sound like I'm going, because see, I see all these people on television, like Andrea Mitchell. You know who she is?
Yeah.
And she's getting too old to be on the air. She stutters and flumphers and she's really and I don't want to get after her because she's old, but I think as an old person, it's kind of like how black people can use the N-word with other black people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think if I'm as old as I am, which is 82, I can go after Andrea Mitchell if I feel she's losing it. Right?
And how old would she be?
I think she's in her... Well, let me find out. I go to the authority. Echo? How old is Andrea Mitchell?
Andrea Mitchell is 75 years old.
Okay, there we go. See? Everything you need to know, my little friend here will tell us. Let's see if they know who you are. Echo? Echo? How old is Larry Bubbles Brown?
Larry Brown is 81 years old.
Well, that's wrong.
81.
You're 81.
Oh, that's the. There's a basketball coach. There was a writer named Larry Brown.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of Larry Browns.
Yeah.
But talk about, who's the big controversy about getting old out here? They think she's losing it as Senator Feinstein.
Well, she's 88 for crying out loud.
Exactly, but
and what is she doing still being a senator? You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's talk about she should leave. So.
Well, I mean, I think she should talk about leaving. I mean, she's had a good run for crying out loud. She's gone out and she's fought big for gun control, which I don't understand why, because she'd never be a senator if guns were controlled.
Remember Steve Pearl's line about she wasn't elected mayor? It was more like bang, bang, who's next?
We can make that joke now. Back then, they wouldn't thought it was so funny.
Not in 78. It was not funny then, no.
Yeah. That was Mayor Moscone.
And Harvey Milk, yeah.
Yeah.
That was right after, that was like about the same week that Jonestown had happened. It was a wild month in San Francisco.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize the two incidences were that close to each other. But I was
like a week apart, I think.
Yeah, that was a period of time where I wasn't living in San Francisco. You know what I missed? Because I was living in Houston and then Chicago and ultimately New York, and during that whole time, the whole Haight-Ashbury thing was happening in San Francisco and so on. I missed out on all that. But you weren't there for that, were you?
No, I missed that, but I was here for the Moscone assassination and
and Jonestown. But you were born in Michigan, right?
Ohio,
rather. In Ohio, same thing.
Right next to each other.
You go over the state line, you don't notice the difference. Okay. Anyway, but how long did you live there before you left there, and did you go directly to San Francisco?
I was going to college for a couple of years. Then my parents had retired, and my sister she moved to San Francisco, and they came out here and visited, and they said, we got to get out of Ohio. So they moved, and I just thought, I might as well go along with them. So.
And so where did they go?
They moved to San Francisco, down on Franklin Street.
Oh, really? And how old were you at that point?
I was like 19.
Oh, okay. So you were all so. So when did you first decide to be a comedian?
Somebody I always dreamed about, but I didn't know how you did it. And then, what did I? Oh, I first heard there was an open mic at the Punchline in San Francisco on Sunday nights. So I went down to watch that, and that's how I got into it.
So you just decided to try open mic?
Yeah, at first just went down to. I watched for a year, and I was shocked at how good some of the comics were here. Then it was first night I went down. I saw Jeremy Kramer and Michael Pritchard and Dana Carvey.
Wow, that's quite a lineup. So you finally went on the first time. Do you remember the first joke? The first time you went on stage?
March 3rd, 81. It was a Tuesday.
As you know, Bubbles remembers everything about his life. Okay, so what was the first joke?
My first joke was, I almost didn't make it here tonight. I was in a freak accident. I ran over a dwarf. And, not bad for your first joke, I didn't think. And I remember it got there was like a long pause, and the crowd started laughing. I thought, oh, shit. So I actually got some laughs in my first time.
How did that feel?
It was so, I was glad I got some laughs, but I mean, just the whole experience was terrifying. So.
Because I have likened, and you know, I've done some stage work in that I hosted a lot of the comedy shows that we did, and I came up with some material. But I never considered myself a stand-up comic. But when I would get the audience to get a big laugh, I got a big laugh out of an audience. It was the same thing as making a woman come.
That's a great feeling, right?
Well, isn't it the same thing?
Yeah, you're giving pleasure to someone.
What I always enjoyed about sex was not the joy it gave me, but the fact that I could elicit a response from another human being by my actions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. That is always what I enjoyed most about sex. If a woman really started coming and whatever, and oh god, that just really was my thing. So
you're a giver. Most men are takers.
So the first time I got up in front of an audience, and they laughed, it was all I could do to keep from blowing my wad. You know what I'm saying? In other words, I suddenly realized it was the same thing because I was controlling an emotion of another human being.
So it's a control thing.
It's a control thing. Oh, no doubt about it. You know, I mean, but I never told jokes in bed because I didn't want the woman to laugh. I wanted a different emotion out of her. But really, what we do is we have a tendency to want to elicit a response out of somebody, and to make somebody laugh is to elicit from them something that is very special. So, you know.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld once said a lot of stand-up comedy is just crowd control.
Absolutely, that's perfect. Listen, it's been a couple of weeks by the time this runs, but I just wanted to ask you: do you have any reflections on the death of Gilbert Gottfried?
Yeah, I love Gilbert. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I didn't know he'd been sick. So,
did you ever meet up with him when he was in San Francisco?
You know where I met him? I was doing Montreal, and you came out to Montreal to do the show, Live 105, and you had Gilbert on, and you had me on the same day.
Did I have Gilbert on?
Yeah.
See, I don't remember anything about that trip to Montreal. And you might think, well, what kind of drugs were you on, Bennett? And I'll tell you what kind of drug I was on. A very heavy narcotic for pain. Because just before going there, about 5 days before going there, I pinched a nerve in my back. Now, I had never done that in my life, but...
Oh, that's horrible.
Excruciating pain. You can't lie anyway. So what they give you, besides they were doing physical therapy on me, but what they did was they gave me some medicine. So I got to Montreal, and I was in just excruciating pain through that whole couple of days. You probably didn't notice it because I hide it pretty well when I'm performing, and I don't remember a thing about that.
Really?
I really don't. All I remember.
Well, you had me and Gilbert on, and else you had on was Brandon Tartikoff.
Did I really?
Yeah.
See, I don't remember any of it. Don't remember any of it. Is that strange?
Yeah.
I do. I remember I went up there, and I remember I spent most of my time when I wasn't on the air in a hotel room, lying on my back to try and ease the pain. And it was horrible, just horrible. But I made it through the.
Yeah, that was such a big festival. It's still going, I guess, but back then it was huge.
But if you say Brandon Tartikoff was there, and if you say that who else was, I think was Ed McMahon on those shows?
That I don't remember. I was up there for 2 days. I don't know how long you were up there, and
I think we were there for 2 or 3 days. Yeah.
I was hanging out with Rich Hall from Saturday Night Live. He was a great guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a fun time.
Whatever happened to Rich Hall?
I think he had that Sniglet book. He made some money. I know he bought a ranch in Montana, and then he was doing a lot of work in England. But
really,
yeah, he was kind of one of those guys.
Because he was doing pretty well there for a while. He had.
There are a lot of people that don't like. A lot of people don't like being famous, so they kind of make money and disappear. So.
Well, there was a guy years ago. People don't remember this because you're all too young for this. Do you ever remember a guy by the name of Kay Kaiser?
I've heard the name. It's he was a band leader or something in the 40s?
Yeah, he was a band leader. Had a band. Kay Kaiser, and he had a radio show, Kay Kaiser's College of Musical Knowledge. And he did quite a few movies and so on and so forth. My father always told me that Kay Kaiser had a something he said that I'm out to make $1 million, and once I make $1 million, I'm going to retire. He made his millionth dollar. Guess what?
He did it.
He retired.
Wow.
A lot of actors, believe it or not, in the old days, you wonder, well, what happened to so-and-so? What happened to so-and-so? Jimmy Cagney worked till he was 65, and then he retired. He said, you retire when you're 65, and he retired. That was it. Not a bad idea, really. I mean, after years of a lot of work, if you've got enough money, why not retire? Enjoy the rest of your life. Enjoy your old age,
Or you can be like Clint Eastwood and work when you're in your 90s.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I saw a thing of him at the Academy Awards with Billy Crystal sitting on his lap. Yeah. And I'm looking at him and going, he was a young man once. I mean, he didn't. The Clint Eastwood of today is much craggier than the old Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
So it was really, really amazing. But he's still directing.
He is. He's 91.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's such a stressful job, directing. It's such a physical job. And people don't think of a director as being physical, but he's got to be here, and he's got to be there, and he's got to be directing this person and moving to this person. And you just begin to wonder, how's he doing it? At my age, I don't think I could direct a film. It's exhausting.
I think the directing would require such intense concentration and making sure everything's going right. There's a lot to watch, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't know how he does it, And another actor who's still directing, although he's not being allowed to as much, is Woody Allen.
Yeah, was he canceled? Is he still working?
Well, it's harder for him to get the money, and harder for him to get the actors to work with him, and all because of false accusations.
That really sucks.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely false accusations. None of the accusations against Woody Allen have ever been proven, and there are people who refuse to work with him because they believe the accusations.
I know.
And you go, come on, you really feel that way? And I think it's terrible because I think he's a really good director, and I look forward to whatever he does, even if it's not good. You know, even bad Woody Allen is better than most people.
True.
But you know, I mean, we talk about existing in this age of Me Too, of wokeness, I guess is what they call it now, and it's just terrible. I mean, who's got an act anymore? I mean, you talk to comedians. Are they afraid of what material they're doing?
Oh, they've definitely, I'd say, turned things back. They don't. I don't think they talk as freely as they used to.
Yeah. We were talking the other day about a bunch of us would get together on Saturday nights on Zoom and just talk back and forth with each other. It's nothing that's broadcast or anything like that. And we were talking about all this wokeness and everything, and they were saying one of the people said that he was told in a sensitivity training session that you can't, as a boss, you can't walk into a room with a bunch of the people who work for you and say, "Okay, guys, let's get going."
That's too harsh.
Guys. You can't use the term guys. Now, to me, guys meant a bunch of people. Okay? It never meant a bunch of men. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't say that anymore.
Wow.
You know, and I'm going, everybody's afraid to say anything. They're afraid of what they tweeted 10 years ago. And then they remember there weren't tweets back then. But, you know, it's sad. And I then think about my friends, the comedians, and how's it affecting their careers? How's it affecting the material they choose to do? And unfortunately, no such thing. So, did you ever meet Gilbert when he came and did my show in San Francisco? You remember that?
No, I just remember meeting him in Montreal.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
When I was a young comic, I remember Robin Williams had been to New York, and he came back, and he was talking to a bunch of us, and I saw this great comic in New York, and it turned out he was talking about Gilbert.
Yeah. Gilbert's been around forever, and he's been successful, but not in the normal success thing, you know? I mean, when you think about it, you go, well, what has he done? And then you start listing what he's done, and you go, he's really been working rather consistently for the last, 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah.
And then you think about it, and you go, yeah, but he wasn't one of those people that everybody knew who he was.
Right.
You know, you say Robin Williams, everybody knows Robin Williams, you know. You say any number of names and they're immediately recognizable, but Gilbert Gottfried, then you play the voice, of course, and they know exactly what you're talking about.
And briefly on Saturday Night Live in 1980, he did a few episodes.
No, he was there for the first 13 weeks of what season was it? The season after all the initial people
Belushi and Chevy Chase and everybody was gone. Yeah, they had the 1980. It was horrible. They almost canceled the show. It was
a woman by the name of Jean Doumanian. Yeah, she later became a producer for Woody Allen, but she brought that show together, and it was just ghastly.
Train wreck, yeah.
But you know what the problem with that year was? I mean, if you go back and look at it, it's not that terrible. They got some great people on that show. I mean, you had Gilbert, and you had Piscopo, I think, was in that group, and a few people they left over. Actually, Eddie Murphy came out of that group, but he was like, you know how they have the names of the not ready for primetime players, and then they say with, and then they got all these other comics. He was one of those. But I mean, it wasn't a terrible show. What it was is kind of like Larry Bubbles Brown having to go on right after Robin Williams. I mean, of course you're going to stink. You know, you can't win.
No.
The people have gotten used to a certain kind of comedy. So that year when everybody left and a whole new bunch were in there, nobody wanted to accept that. You know, they were overly critical of it. They didn't let these people develop. And if it had lasted and those people had survived, I think Gilbert's career would have been different. You know, but it was a badly conceived of solution to the problem, as it were. But well, I'm glad you got to meet Gilbert. He was a great guy. I loved Gilbert.
He was great, and he was not afraid to offend anyone.
No, he sabotaged his career on many an occasion.
Yeah, many times.
You know, and still survived by just keeping on going. You know.
What was the joke he did like a couple of weeks after 9/11 about?
Oh, well, he was at there was a Hugh Hefner roast on Comedy Central, and he got up and he said, "You know, it's pretty hard to catch a flight these days." He said, "I finally did catch a flight to get me here. It was planning to be stopped at the Empire State Building or something like that." I mean, and this is like 2 days after 9/11. He tells this joke. I think it was Bill Maher in an interview who said Gilbert was the king of too soon. And then what was the other? There was one other that got him in a lot of something got him in trouble with Aflac, and they fired him.
He lost. Yeah, I think he was making $500,000 just for doing that voice. But there was a tsunami in Japan, and Aflac had a lot of.
Yes, and he made a joke about that.
Fan or something, and
it was a tweet, actually, is what it was. And then there's one other thing he did that got him in a lot of trouble too, and he lost work out of it. I mean, he just was. He was the king of too soon, because he didn't have that censor that you probably have in you that goes, well, I better not do that. You know,
the filter.
The filter. He didn't have the filter. To him, funny was funny, and. What was really funny to him, and it should be, was tragedy. Because if you laugh at tragedy, you soften the blow of the tragedy. And I think he believed that tragedy was a good place to go for comedy. But he made me laugh really hard. I'll tell you, I talk about this every year. We would go to a party, the same party, at a friend's house. And he and I would get together and go off into a corner and talk for 2 hours. You know, I enjoyed his company, and I think he enjoyed mine, and that was our basic socialization at that point. You know, and he had done my show on any number of occasions, but it wasn't like he was a regular. I was in San Francisco, and he was in New York. But whenever he came to San Francisco, he did the show. So, but anyway, you know, I mean, we've lost a couple of good couple of nice comics this year.
We've lost Norm and Louis Anderson and Bob Saget.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's Bob Saget and Gilbert. You know, I didn't know Louis Anderson, and I didn't know, who was the other one you mentioned?
Norm Macdonald.
Norm Macdonald. I didn't know Norm Macdonald. Although
I thought you didn't have him on the show.
I don't think so. You know, it's funny. I did so many shows with so many different people. Every now and then, somebody would come on and go. Like it was Lewis Black a few years ago came on my show at Sirius XM, and he said, "You know, I've done your show before." I said, "Where?" He said, "In San Francisco." He said, "But you probably don't remember. I wasn't screaming then." You know. And I said, "I hope I treated you well." He says, "Yeah, you treated me very nicely." You know, but I don't. Somehow I don't. You know, I don't remember some comics who came and went through. You know, and every now and then I'll have some comic or some actor or somebody say, "Hey, remember when I did your show in San Francisco?" And I go, "Was I doing coke at the time?" You know, I mean, what was it? A lot of them I never remembered, because it was just this long list of people who would come in the door and go out the door. So, you know, but I never. Of course, I always remembered Gilbert. How can you not? You know, I always remember.
He'd be hard to forget.
I always remember Larry Bubbles Brown.
Well, I hardly leave a footprint, so it's amazing.
You were on a few times, weren't you?
I was on a few times. Actually employed a few times.
Yeah, he was our weather guy for
that traffic guy.
The traffic guy. Although that was great. I loved you doing traffic. Nobody better doing traffic. That's the way
Those are fun, yeah.
That's the way traffic should be done because it's insignificant anyway, you know. But it was nice to have a comedy break in the show whenever I went to traffic. Anyway, hey.
Yes, it was fun.
We have run out of another joyous 25 minutes of
time flies.
Well, it's not. I love talking to you. You know,
Yeah,
I
you
really
too,
do.
man.
And you get me talking, and it's a conversation, and you're not fighting for space. You know. Anyway, I love you. I think the world of you, and we'll see you again in next week. How's that?
Love you too, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 7th year. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Ah, yes, Larry Bubbles Brown. Yes, Larry. I just got a Len LaFrisco is a guy who calls our Monday show. And he sent me a thing tonight saying I'm going to go see a comedy show with Larry Bubbles Brown tonight. So he then went and he sent me a picture of he and Bubs together. And Bubs is looking good, man. He's like, 66, 67, something like that, I guess. And he's looking terrific. God, and he should get himself a camera and a thing so he can get on and we can do a show together. With us seeing him, but he says, I'm just too hideous these days. No, he's not. He's looking great. But anyway, and then Len wrote that he said the show was great and he killed. And I went, well, how would we expect anything less of Bubbles? Bubbles does kill. He is a very funny comic. Anyway, it's time for us to go out to various places, two of which are California, and one of which is, I'm trying to remember now, is it, I always forget, Josh, exactly where you are. So please tell us where you are.
I am in Ohio.
That's what I figured, but I didn't want to be wrong.
I'm technically in my basement.
Oh, this is from your basement, huh? Is this your man cave?
It is my television room.
Your television room?
In my basement. Yeah.
I see. Now, does the wife come down and watch TV with you?
Occasionally.
Oh, you don't? Why? You don't like the same shows, or what?
A little bit. But she, watches a lot of her stuff in her upstairs office or whatever. We have a few things we watch together. There's not that much out there left anymore, TV's getting kind of shitty.
It is getting kind of crappy. You know what somebody suggested? And it wouldn't be a bad idea if TV just went to pay TV. If all the networks just went to a pay format, and
never know. Yeah, she does watch some TV down here. Like sometimes we come down here and while we eat dinner, we watch a show, and then kind of she goes back upstairs or whatever. Better Call Saul was back on for the last couple episodes or whatever. So we watched a little bit of that.
Of course. Hello to Alan. What happened to Kevin? Kevin was here for a second.
I don't know. Maybe he gave up.
I know.
It could be. He saw Alan and bolted. How you doing, Alan?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, here comes Kevin now. I'm doing okay.
Is it really your 7th season? I guess.
What?
I don't know. The intro, you said something about the 7th season.
You haven't heard that before?
I don't listen to the intro.
It's only been running like that for the last year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so congratulations on your 8th season. It's coming up.
It's coming up. Yeah.
Okay.
We got to get Rob to do a new intro. So, which every year I write him and I said, would you do another one for the new year? So, yeah, 8 years of absolute futility.
It's kept a lot of us happy and sane.
I guess the only reason I keep doing it is to keep you happy, Alan. Every morning I wake up and I think, what can I do for Alan?
That's right. I try and find you all the items under $1 that I can send you from Prime.
I remember you did that once. That was very funny. Well, because we were just, in fact, I was remembering that because today I ordered something from Prime, and I ordered 3 of those small little batteries, those round batteries, and for 4 of them, I think it was 6 of them or something like that. It was like only $3.45. But I figured, what the hell? So I'm getting that's a good cheap one, right?
Right.
Although you
Are they
found
batteries that you need, I hope.
You found stuff for under $1, though, right?
Yeah. A ruler. What else did I send you? Some a spray that I sent Mike Allen every time he farts so the wallpaper doesn't come off.
Yeah, well,
the
you know
wall.
something, though? What they do to save money is they take that one order and they put them all in one box.
Sure.
See, and that's how they get away with that. But there's no way they're going to get off of having to send me, probably spend $5 to send me $3 worth of whatever.
They'll send it like U.S. mail type thing.
It's coming here. It's taking longer than usual to get here. Yes. But no, I got one of these, these AirTags that Apple has, and it's gone dead on me. And I guess it's the battery. After a year they go out, so I have to put a new one in.
I thought they were rechargeable. I thought you put it on the little...
No. Those are not rechargeable. No.
I don't know much about them.
And getting the battery out is hell.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, hello to Kevin. How are you doing, Kevin?
Okay, how you doing, Alex?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Gee, if we just had Patrick here, it'd be Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Because every Saturday night we kind of get together and just have a little private talk, And it's always... One night you guys went... I had to beg out because I was dog tired. I was just like... I didn't think I could go more than about an hour, and I didn't. And I left you guys on because you used my account. And I come back about 2 hours later, and you're still going at it. You'd been talking for over 3 hours that night?
Yeah, it was pretty close, I think.
Like that.
Maybe more. Maybe a tad over 3.
A little bit.
Yeah. But it what's great about those conversations, and you guys have mentioned it, we have the kind of discussion you'd never have here. Because you here you kind of have to watch what you're saying because it could come back to haunt you. Where if it's a private call, you can say anything you feel,
Pretty much.
So, Patrick always feels a little less inhibited under those circumstances than he does if he came on here, He was always, when he'd come on here, he was always afraid that it would get people mad at him,
Yeah.
But anyway, boy, it's Friday night and there's just the 4 of us. So
Must be a busy night.
Said, come on.
Yeah, what was I going to say? Did you see, anybody here watch James Corden at all with the Late Late Show on CBS?
I hadn't seen him lately.
He's had it since 2015, and he announced last night that he's quitting the show. He's going to stop.
Oh, yeah?
He's going to quit in a year. Yeah. Well, he's always had another career going. He was always very well known in England. He had hit series. He's been in major motion pictures like Into the Woods as a singer. And he's a very talented guy. And to do that show every night kind of limits your options,
Yeah.
So he just said, it's time for me to... This was a big adventure for me. Now it's time for me to go out and have another adventure. So... And he says, I also want to quit before people get tired of me. Which...
Probably a good move.
It would be... Yeah, Jimmy Fallon should take that kind of advice,
Yeah.
But
I like what you and Phil were talking about, that Alan wasn't invited to the Monday show. That was cute on Wednesday night.
You thought that was cute? Why did you think that was cute? It's true.
Well, yeah, I know, but I told you before I'm not up that early, so you have a 99% chance I won't be on the show.
Well, I mean, if you called it, I probably wouldn't put you on.
That's okay. I listened to it afterwards. Sometimes they have interesting things to say.
Phil knows.
Andrew Deutsch is funny. I get some material from him.
Actually, Andrew hasn't called the show in months.
Yeah, well,
So that's why you haven't had material lately. I see. Okay, good.
you know.
No, Andrew did, I think, one day. He has some kind of job during the day now that takes him away from us. But we really, really enjoyed his presence on that show.
Sure.
But, don't feel bad. I mean, Phil isn't welcome on that show either. So,
Oh, Tony's driving me nuts.
Oh, yeah. Now, Tony, here's
This PSA shit. Am I gonna die? Am I gonna die? Am I okay? Come on.
You know something? He got the first guy to get this from Tony. Tony got a bad PSA test. And then he went and he got another one that was better than the one before it. Okay? Anyway, his doctor now wants to do a biopsy. Now, this is something you kind of have to be careful about.
Sure.
You don't just do a biopsy for the sake of doing a biopsy. Right, Phil? Right, Phil?
What? I didn't hear.
Oh, you don't do a biopsy for the sake of doing a biopsy.
Okay. Wait a minute. I turn off the browser so you don't hear those last few minutes.
Yeah.
What about the browser?
Well, you've gotten calls from Tony in the last couple of days, haven't you?
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if I hang up on him, he calls back.
Okay. So anyway, he gets a bad PSA test. It's a little high. And the PSA is a test they give you to see maybe if you have a possibility of prostate cancer. I almost said breast cancer. Prostate cancer. And so he got a little high test. So then they give him another test and it was down. Okay. So I get a call from Shecky because the first guy he calls, the first guy in the loop is Shecky. All right. And he says, could you do something about Tony? He's calling me and messaging me every 5 minutes about this prostate thing. Well, if a guy's got a prostate, so I said to him, look, give him my number, tell him to call me. I'll calm him down. All right? So he calls me. And I said, Tony, look, here's the situation. You probably should go get another opinion because I think this guy's going too fast for a biopsy.
Same thing I said.
Yeah. And you went to a second opinion, right?
I got a second opinion.
Yeah, you got a second opinion too.
Call your guy and get the same test you got, which I don't know what the name of it
I don't know what it was called, but it's a test they do when they do the PSA. It's another blood test they can do that looks into the possibility that you might have a Gleason score 6 or above. All right.
Total PSA?
No. I told you the other day it isn't total PSA.
Okay.
Total PSA.
And it's not free.
No, but it's another test. And I can't remember what the name of it is. Next time I see him, I'll ask him what it was called because
might be dead by then, Tony. There.
Well, anyway, I told him give my guy a call, right? Well, he supposedly called my guy, and they don't take his insurance.
So pay out of pocket and get a second opinion.
Get a second opinion. I don't know what kind of insurance could he have that
It's some New York insurance, and he told me Emblem Health.
Yeah, something like that.
I think it's a reasonable company.
I think he would. I think my doctor would take Emblem.
Well,
Absolutely.
I think the level of Emblem that he has is if you're found on a sidewalk, they hose you onto the other side of the street.
No, they hose the pavement down.
Right.
Yeah, right.
He doesn't need insurance for that.
But no, you'd be surprised. The city could charge you back.
Yeah, but anyway, so here's the thing. So I told him, look, call my doctor. I said, don't rush into this thing. I said, I know you have a urologist that your doctor sent you to, but I said, between you and me, I don't trust urologists much, except mine. The one I found is terrific, right? And he'll do right by you. He won't do more than you got to do. He won't rush into a biopsy. In fact, he said to me, look, most doctors rush into a biopsy because it's an easy $500.
Sure.
You know, and he
At
said,
least.
I just don't do that. He said, that's not something I'm prone to do. He says, if I think there's a possibility. So when I got that Gleason thing back, you know, the Jackie Gleason score, to the moon. And I did that. He said, I think we better do what do you call it? A biopsy. And he did the biopsy, and we found the cancer. Okay?
Right.
So that's it. So I said, go to this guy. Now, Tony, one other thing. He said, what? I said, do not call me again.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's calling Phil and me
Now
every
he's,
day,
but
5
it's, you know what
times.
he is? It's like a balloon where you push on one side and it comes
pops out the
pops
other,
out
yeah.
on the other. Yeah, that's with him. So I told him, don't call me. So now, since I guess he can't go to my doctor for some reason, I don't know. Emblem insurance is something they take. I know, because I think
I think he said that his level of emblem was if you're homeless, you get a better level. You know?
Oh, really? Oh, God. Well, anyway.
But I guess maybe it's just for catastrophic.
So now
stuff.
he's calling you guys, and
He
you know
was
you're
doing
not
that
going to.
all along.
You-
You know what he wants? He wants somebody to say, "Oh, Tony, it'll be all right."
No, but that's what I said.
Little Tony, don't you worry. He's looking for sympathy.
No, but he got it early.
Yeah, but he wants
But
more.
the thing is with prostate cancer is if he's got it and if they treat it, it's very treatable early. I wouldn't want to have it either, but I'd rather have it treated than have it go throughout your body and kill you.
Well, now
The guy that
in Phil's case, he had the prostate removed, and of course they threw it on the pavement and then hosed it down.
I would have been lucky if they did that. Maybe they would have gotten the rest of the cancer. But the deal with Tony is his PSA's normal pretty much.
Well, it went up, but now it's back down below the 4.0, which is the point.
Well, he
Those
could
are
have had
statistically all the same.
What is it
4
called?
and then 3.9 and 3.8.
Yeah.
The lab is not perfect on these blood tests.
and he could have had prostatitis or something.
Yeah, let me say to people who are listening to us right now, PSA test is not a positive indicator that you have cancer. It's only an indicator there might be a chance that you do.
Yeah.
And so therefore other tests are then indicated to find out. One of which is, of course, a biopsy.
For, right? You know what PSA stands for?
What?
Pretty sure about it.
Yeah, I say. Okay.
You know that the test was originally developed to monitor people that had active cancer. And then they started using it to say, oh, maybe you do, maybe you don't. And they came up with some other tests. And it's a
There's
horrible
a lot of controversy around the test. Okay. But anyway, so do you mind, Kevin and Josh, if we give Tony your phone number?
They probably blocked him a long time ago.
I know neither of you have had prostate problems, but
But they want to.
Don't.
Oh, wait a minute. Have you? What? What, Kevin?
He's looking for his prostate.
What, is that a PSA test?
A whole bunch of tests. I just got them the other day.
Really? What do you got?
Never mind.
What's your PSA?
It's flight 23.
Your
Flight
flight
45.
Out of San Francisco or Monterey?
Okay, then the only one here who hasn't had prostate problems is Josh, right, Josh?
As far as I know,
How many times a
Give him
night
time.
do you get up to pee?
depends on how drunk I got, I guess.
Yeah. But this is something. Excuse me, folks, but this is something that as you get older, all you guys are gonna have to face. Okay, it's an inevitable. What?
How old is Tony? 50, 52?
Yeah.
That.
When it all starts.
Yeah, there you go. That's
Hey,
it.
you know what happened to me is, I want to talk about me. I don't want to talk about Tony.
Yeah, let's talk about Phil. He's much more
not
interesting.
yet.
Yeah, I'm more interesting. My diseases are better than his diseases. So I get a floater the other day.
Oh, yeah,
And, I always thought a floater.
Well,
was
no. What
something-
happens is what you do is if you get a floater, flush.
Yeah, well, no, well, I thought a floater was some body in the bay, you
It
know,
is.
that got dumped by the mafia.
Too much
But,
fat in your diet.
Yeah, it's what?
Too much fat in your diet when you look in there and there's a floater. It's got to sink.
Yeah, really. I hope it sinks. It's pretty big. And,
Anyway, so the floater was in your eye.
yeah, there's some as you age, you get floaters, and maybe it's from not getting enough sleep. There's a lot of reasons.
Could be
But,
certain vitamin deficiency.
Probably gunpowder flashing.
Yeah,
back
well,
on your
a little part of the eye peels off, and it just floats around in there, and eventually, gravity it settles down. There really isn't anything they can do about it, but the symptoms that you get, which is these flashes that were going across my eye, almost like a comet,
Mm-hmm.
and they thought that there's a possibility I could have had a separated or a torn retina,
retina.
and so they
Detached
wanted me
retina.
immediately to, because I called, and a couple days later they had a telephone conference, and as soon as I explained the symptoms, the doctor on the telephone says, "Come right down." So I canceled my afternoon appointment and went right down, and they dilated my eyes and looked in there, and they
Okay.
said, "No, the retina's okay. It's just a floater." So, but it's scary and it's uncomfortable, and especially if you think you're going to lose your vision.
And that's when they discovered your breast cancer.
Yeah. Well, my eyes are pretty important to me, for some of the things that I do, and especially it was my right eye, which is my dominant eye, and for shooting you got to have your dominant eye, and for photography, I guess I could get away with, using my left eye, but I prefer to use the right.
Yeah. So anyway, let me see here. What's happening news-wise? Well, our president wants $33 billion to go to Ukraine.
I'm sure the Republicans
Josh,
will give it to him.
How much will he get back
Yeah.
after kickback?
I don't know. We'll get back.
100.
Yeah. Josh, is this not, in a way, us fighting that war over there by proxy?
Well, it's developing into that, yeah.
Yeah, why don't we
mean-
just take that money and go over there ourselves and wipe Putin's ass all over the map?
Well, I mean, I think that that's kind of our goal and what we'd like to do, but I think that the politicians, and I understand this, don't want any American life lost. I mean, the first American soldier that gets killed, I think they have all this fear that, Americans will lose their mind over it or something like that, and everyone will start to worry it's going to get out of control and be involved in another war. So I think they've just decided that since the Ukrainians are willing to do the shooting and the dying, not that they have much choice, that they will allow them to continue to do that and then support them. So, I mean, that's at least a good step in the right direction. They're starting to step up the support for them. I mean, Russia appears to be struggling still continually, and I heard a lot of talk this morning about the Finns and the Swedes wanting to join NATO, which will aggravate the Russians more, but I don't know that they're in a position to do much about it. Even
But
though they say
what
they-
happened is Putin made this threat the other day that anybody that helps Ukraine is going to have to pay a price. I mean, it's his idle threats again.
He's right about
$100 billion right now.
$33 billion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I mean, is that not a reason for him to then unleash? He says, "I have weapons you don't even know about."
Oh well, yeah. I
What
mean,
really
we'll see.
tenacious?
I mean,
What really tenacious farts? What's his special
Oh,
weapon?
we've got weapons he knows about. So
That's right, like Tony's phone number.
Yes, give him Tony's phone number.
yeah. I mean, I understand the.
And by the way,
You
if you're
know.
listening, Tony, we love you. Yes, go ahead.
There's always been this argument, and it's a decent one, that the more that you expand NATO, the more Russia will feel threatened because they slowly but surely feel like, or they think that they're being, pushed further and further into a corner, and they're going to be surrounded by no one but NATO countries who have this tight-knit relationship to defend each other from any aggressor, mainly Russia. And I get it, but look, but they did that to themselves. If they don't want that, then they should stop acting like, dickheads. So, I understand that that's their line of thinking. But to me, in my opinion, any politician in this country who pushes that line of rhetoric as a reason that we shouldn't do things is a Russian sympathizer or is on their payroll. And if you're a sympathizer of them, well, that's your opinion. I just happen to disagree with it. So we'll go on about our way. And if you're on their payroll, then you're a traitor. So you're a treasonous actor. I mean, but we're getting more and more, involved, and we had to pick a side, and we did. So hopefully it's working out. I mean, we're getting in pretty deep. I mean, $30 billion is a lot of money on top of the, like 10 or 12 that we've already sent. So that's a lot of weaponry and a lot of aid, but I think it's probably the right move. I mean, the Truman Doctrine that worked for a long time was to contain Russian aggression, Soviet aggression, anywhere that you could find it, outside of their own borders. Of course,
they have to corner up that southwest corner, otherwise they're going to be screwed. They'll be landlocked.
Yeah,
and that's what I think they're going after.
Right.
But the Ukrainians are hitting inside Russia now. They hit a couple of their military bases yesterday or something like that.
Oh, yesterday?
No, I think a couple of weeks ago they hit a oil fuel.
Yeah, they hit an oil refinery or something.
Yeah.
Hey, look, that's fair play in a war, So,
well, if the troops that are fighting you are getting their oil and getting their fuel from one of those plants, then it's fair game to go across the border and take it out.
Yeah, and then the Russians are making war on, the population, the citizenry, what military historians or whatnot would sort of refer to as total war, where war is being made upon the civilian population, not just the military apparatus of combatant nation. So, I mean, again, anyone that feels, sorry for the Russians, they've done this to themselves. I mean, they're going to turn themselves here, if they are not careful, into the North Koreans. They're going to be isolated. I mean, they're going to be more advanced, of course, but I'm just saying they're going to be isolated, militarily and economically from the rest of the world. Travel's going to be cut off. No diplomatic relations. I mean, that's the road they're going down. I mean, the Germans, I heard this morning, are finally on board with banning all of their oil and gas. They were sort of the last holdout, but apparently they're working pretty hard to find replacement oil. And if everybody just stops buying it, that's the only money that, from my understanding, that they have left to fund their war-making machine. So, that's eventually that's going to cripple them. So I don't know how they're going to continue. I mean, the Ukrainians would like to end the war as soon as possible, I'm sure, but they just have to stay in the fight. I mean, any war of occupation, which is what the Russians have gotten themselves involved in, comes with these problems. And I can't believe that they didn't realize it. I mean, I don't know if it's arrogance, stupidity, ego. I don't know, a combination of three, I suppose. But whatever it is, it wasn't a wise move, and I can't sort of help but laugh. That Putin thought he was the the going to be Russia's greatest leader of all time. It's almost starting to look like he's going to
Well,
be there undoing it. But
you got a situation. Why don't you go back to your other camera, Phil?
It was webcam settings. I was fooling around with it.
Well, you shouldn't do that while we're doing a show.
All right.
Yeah, shame on you, Phil.
Yeah.
He has green hair and then a red face. It's cute.
I was trying to fix it.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that we should deal with here. I mean, I agree with Biden when he said in his speech that if we don't stop him here, no telling where it's going to go from here. And that's been in history, dictators like this have taken a non-fighting on the part of other countries or non-intervention by other countries as a weakness. And this is what he's going to do. And we need to teach him, hey, we're not going to stand by and do nothing. So now our part of doing nothing is what? Doing nothing but sending money. Fighting the war by proxy.
We're really, we're arming the Ukrainian military pretty well, I guess, from what I hear. I mean, we're slowly but surely, like one little step at a time, ratcheting up the pressure through our rhetoric and stuff like that.
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. This was something I was thinking about tonight, and I don't know that anybody's really brought this up. The question is, why is Putin so stupid and so bold? Okay? And I think the answer lies in a very simple reason. He's got Parkinson's, and I think he sees his health and his future limited, and I think he wants to make his mark on this planet before he goes. And I think he has no reason not to go all the way with this, because he's not going to be around to see the resolution of it. Does that make sense?
Never heard that.
Well, it's known that he has Parkinson's.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even know that, but
Is it?
Yes, it is. He's said as much.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the psychoanalyzation, that'll go on about why he's doing what he's doing, I'm sure is going to go on for quite a while and probably really never be settled. But the mark that he's leaving right now is pretty negative. I mean,
I know, but he's taking every chance he can. He's just pushing it because he doesn't care. He figures his time is limited, and so he's going to go for broke. If he knew that if he knew that he was in good health and he had to live with the rest of the world for a long period of time, I don't think he would be this bold.
Yeah. It's very possible. I mean, it's I mean, it's just like I say, it's just sort of incredible that, I don't know if he thought or the folks around him or whatever, thought it was going to be this master stroke and they were going to roll in and sort of, blitzkrieg them or whatever and, start slowly taking all this territory back. And, he was just going to ascend to this, hero of the Soviet Union, the Russian people, whatever you want to call them now. And it's unless something changes, it's going in the exact opposite direction.
I think what we're dealing with is a man who is trying to establish his legacy.
Yeah.
Because he knows his time is limited. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean that's a plausible scenario, right? Yeah, I mean, it's not working out so well.
I wonder why the news doesn't pick up on that, because I've never heard that.
Oh no, there was a news item about maybe 5 months ago, something like that.
I never heard
he
that.
announced that he had Parkinson's. Yeah.
I mean, that's
what, Jeff?
I thought that he started this little miniature war, which was almost like an experiment war. And he thought, whatever I'm going to do, I'll send my guys down there. They'll scare the shit out of them, and we'll run that country, and it'll be part of Russia.
Yeah, right.
And you know what? It didn't happen.
Right.
It pissed him off. And now he doesn't know what the hell to do to get it, to be embarrassed.
Yeah. I'm looking here to see about the Vladimir Putin. There's a lot of stuff online about Parkinson's and Putin with Parkinson's, and a lot of them are people looking at videos and seeing that he has something, that he's not well. If you look at him, he's very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's kind of, he's just not very animated. Okay, I guess that's the best way I can put it. So. Well,
yeah, I never heard that. I mean, but it's possible. I mean, yeah. I mean, the whole thing is just sort of crazy. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see where it develops. I mean, the one thing that I sort of wonder about is, now they're threatening these moves into, like Moldova and places like that. Countries that are NATO alliance protected, that are members, and our president, who really I would see as the de facto leader of NATO, has said, we will defend every square inch of NATO turf. If they step 1 foot into NATO territory, we're involved. So what's going to happen if that happens? Now, I've heard a lot of people say, that they're not even worried about that at all, because they really just see that as a running off of the mouth, as an idle threat, that sort of move will spread them so thin that they will be incredibly vulnerable. And even the stupidest of people wouldn't try it, but it can still happen, so I don't know. I mean, that'll be, because you can't really say something like that, and then not really come through on it. I mean, Obama did in Syria, remember, with the, if you use chemical weapons, that's a red line. And then, they use chemical weapons, and we were like, well, I said that? What? I don't remember saying that.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything. So, but with something like NATO, I don't know that you can do that. I mean, of course, in that case, it's not just going to be, it's not as if that's going to happen and then it's going to be all American troops. I mean, it would be a NATO and an allied force, but that's not something they want to get involved in either, because I have seen the numbers on NATO versus the Russian army, and I mean, NATO as a whole versus the Russian army, and this is why the Russians feel so threatened, is the numbers just dwarf them. I mean, the Russian Navy is made up of something like 100 ships, and the NATO Navy is made up of like 1,000.
After the other day, 99 ships.
Yeah, well, yeah, someone else made that joke this morning too, I heard. Which, that's one less now. I mean, the manpower is like
one more submarine.
10 to 1. I mean, it's just, I mean, aircraft, tanks, armored vehicles. I mean, the numbers are just incredible. And the will to fight among the Russian soldiery, I don't know what it is, but I keep hearing that it's not great, and look, the further down the line that you go and the longer that the war goes, and you start getting into people who have been pressed into service via a draft or due to, from a totalitarian government, from threats to their families or whatever, this Stalin-esque type movement, those people aren't really motivated. I mean, they may show up and all that because they said they had to, but they're not in the fight,
Well, it's the same conundrum that we were in Vietnam. The reason we lost Vietnam was because it's not our country.
Yeah.
And the people who are there have more of a reason to fight, and they have a reason to win than we do to want to win. We just want to go home. There wasn't a Russian soldier that was there that wanted to be there. Phil, you having troubles?
Yeah.
Why? What did you do?
Webcam settings died. I'm going to have to reinstall it. So
Well, how do you know it died?
Because I can't open it.
Oh, you can't open it. I see. Well, that'll teach you to keep to fool around while we're on the air here.
Yeah, you want me to get off, and I'll,
No, you're fine. You're just very tiny and small. just the way, and keep trying to fix it because it made you shut up. Anyway, the other thing that I think, and you'll probably agree with this, Josh, is historically the Russians have a mindset about being surrounded by enemies or being subject to worrying about NATO, as an example, because we can go back to Napoleon. Napoleon went into Russia, but he was pushed out of Russia because it was too cold for him, no matter what kind of heavy jackets he was wearing. But then we got to the Germany during World War II and what they did to Stalingrad and so on. And again, there's this history of other countries coming in and trying to give them, to overtake them. So they look at NATO in the same way. They don't see NATO as something any different than, say, the Nazi army.
Yeah.
It's just another army that's trying to take over what they got.
Yeah, they certainly have this ingrained, paranoia about basically being surrounded and cut off by everyone else, which in some ways is ironic for a country that has the huge landmass that they possess. But again, but they've done that to themselves. I mean, if they wouldn't act like assholes, China's huge too, but we're openly, I understand we have a tense relationship with them, but we still unload boatloads of our goods in their country every day, and we unload 10 times that many boatloads of their goods in our country every day.
Yeah.
So if they would
don't
just
go around poking the bear either.
Right, exactly. So if they would just have acted, like decent people for the last, 50 years or whatever, they wouldn't be in this position. But leaders like Putin have just continued to take them down that path, and they haven't done anything to stop it. I'm not necessarily talking about the Russian people. Their electorate doesn't really have much say in it, but they also haven't really done anything to check it either. I understand that their elections are fixed and that they're in a system of government where that's not an easy thing, but there's not a large enough push for revolution or whatever there either. So I'm not saying that's easy either. It's not me that would have to do it. So I'm sure that sounds like I'm spending other people's monies and lives. I get that. I'm just saying, they're the ones that created this situation, this need for the world to treat them the way they are. But I guess overall, what I'm sort of seeing, and it's kind of interesting because I was listening to this podcast interview the other day about the Truman presidency, and it was sort of relevant, because after the Second World War, when Churchill came to America and gave his Iron Curtain speech, that made the phrase famous, Truman was, in agreement with him on that, even though it really upset Joseph Stalin. And Truman tried to make some peace with Stalin, but he was so offended, by the fact that Truman applauded at the end of that speech and all that kind of stuff. But that's how Truman felt. Truman did not trust the Soviets. He knew that this is the path they would go down. That's exactly what happened. And he decided that, he would institute a doctrine of containment, that he would allow them, or not allow them, but in his opinion, what territory they had was theirs. That's fine and good. We're not going to hash out the past, but going forward, we can't have you just deciding that you'd like to have this neighboring country. And if you do, we're going to have to do something about it. And that worked for a long time. Okay. And it seems like we're back to that.
Let me bring up
their old ways.
Let me bring up another subject here. I don't know how many of you saw this in the news tonight, but they got rid of the. He's not the CEO of Disney, but they got rid of the chief operating officer or something like that at Disney. The guy's been making all these decisions in Florida, and they feel that he's really bungled the job because it's been Disney's feeling over the years that they keep out of political things. because they're a family business and they just want to be known as a family business and they don't want to get into other people's fights. And somehow, this time, Disney got into a real fight. And so they fired the guy who was doing all of this because they feel he just handled it badly. He handled it badly when people were arguing, well, aren't you going to do something about the don't say gay thing? And then when he did something about the don't say gay thing, which made all the gay employees of Disney very happy and all the people who would go there to have a magic weekend happy. But on the other hand, it then brought about the ire of the governor of the state of Florida, who is planning on running for president, so he looks upon this as a real opportunity to make news and to get in the press. So we saw the head of he's not the head of Disney, he's not the CEO, but I was looking for the title. I didn't see the title here.
Chief Operating Officer.
Chief Operating Officer, something like that. Not maybe the COO, not the CEO, but the board of directors had him step down today. So that's the big news on that front.
You know, if Disney were to decide, I'm sure that they could get, what's been done to them overturned and probably come out ahead. And I haven't heard many people discuss this. And so with what I'll say, this is nothing to do with whether or not Disney should have gotten involved or anything like that. I have no opinion on that I'm giving.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that the law would be on their side, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because under Citizens United,
Mm-hmm.
that conservatives supposedly loved, or at least Republicans loved, okay, and thought was the greatest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
It was decided by our Supreme Court that the law of the land was that corporations had the right to free expression and freedom of speech the same as individuals, and that the government, therefore, could do nothing to limit that speech or expression and take any punitive measure against any part of the body electorate if they didn't like what someone did or what someone said. So they basically, under that law, under that ruling, are the same as you or I. Okay, if you or I,
well, that goes back. That goes
don't-
back to a few years ago, where
Yeah, so-
where the Supreme Court, I think, ruled years ago that corporations are individuals.
Correct.
And,
So
yeah,
if you or I said I don't like that law, the governor of Florida and their legislature could not make any sort of law that punished me for it. Okay? But where the people in Florida really made their mistake was they openly said that the law was to punish the Disney Corporation. The governor said it many times. The leader of the committee that wrote and pushed the bill through their state legislature said so on tape several times in the debate, what little debate there was, etc. So, I mean, they openly admitted that it was a punitive measure toward an individual, okay, because that's what Disney is in this case. They're an individual for their opinion, basically. I mean, that it's just their opinion. I mean, they didn't take
well,
any action.
here's the thing. Here's the thing that is kind of interesting. I mean, let's for a moment take a look at the law that they passed in Florida. Okay, it only applies to kindergarten, first, second, and third grades. It does not apply to anything over that. Okay, is it that onerous to have passed that law? About just not, and it's not don't say gay, it's just don't teach sexuality to those grades. That you can do it after that, but not before.
They feel it's the parents' right to do that and not the school. You know, when I was in first, second, and third grade, maybe not third, but cooties was the biggest deal you could have, and so maybe kids of that age some parents may feel that showing or teaching them that individual stuff is okay, but it's their right to do it.
Well,
and they don't want it done by the school.
Well, I think that the school at some point should do it. But
yeah, maybe
but
8th grade,
well,
6th.
No, well, but is it that horrible a law that they passed, saying that you're just not supposed to teach sexuality?
No, but it's they're also teaching that being born as a boy, but it's okay to be a girl and things like this. So
I don't think that's what's really. I don't think you see a lot of times people like DeSantis come up with straw dogs. Okay, now find me the classroom in first, second, and third grades where that's being taught right now in Florida.
It ain't getting taught in Florida now.
Well, no, but I mean, even prior to that, you probably won't find that they would be doing that because I don't think that's the kind of thing they do at that age. I think.
Did you see a thing called the Libs of TikTok? I guess there was this person who put together a compilation of
compilation.
Oh. Of all sorts of teachers.
Oral? Was it an oral copulation?
No,
video copulation.
Yeah. Video copulation. That would be porn.
Yeah. So they put this together of all of these teachers who had posted their own stuff on TikTok, talking about sexuality and what they believe in and so forth. And then there was a reporter that doxed the person who owned the site, and she was getting threats and things like that.
Yeah, but wait a minute. This is on TikTok. What does that have to do with teaching in a school?
These were teachers,
yes,
that were expounding on their thoughts on sexuality and how it should be taught in the schools.
I think that at a certain point in schools, it's the school's job to tell kids about sexuality, and if the parent, but I say it's somewhere around maybe the 5th grade. If the parents haven't gotten around to it by then somebody's got to do it.
I agree.
Okay.
And so what the law is it's kindergarten.
But I don't know if this law in Florida is that egregious. It's not like, to begin with, they say it's don't say gay, but that's not really what it is.
That has nothing to do with that.
No. That's just what people are saying.
I don't personally, like for myself, know that the law itself was, like completely crazy or anything like that. And I don't know that Disney's reaction needed to be, what it was or whatever. I don't know that either one of them were necessary. I'm just saying that if I live in a housing development, and when they build it, they said anybody that moves in that housing development gets a 10% discount on your property taxes so that you'll move in. And then I move in, and me and everybody else are getting 10% off our property tax. Okay. And my city council passes a law, and I say, I don't like that law. That's a bullshit law. And then the city council comes together and they say, we are removing the 10% discount for Mr. Wheeler. They have violated my civil rights.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the difference between that
and what they did to
and
Disney?
What happened based on the Citizens United Supreme Court ruling of a decade?
I guess they had
not much.
I guess they had the ability to do that, and from what I understand, Disney's on the hook for almost $2 billion in bonds that was sold. So
but what I'm saying is they only think that they had the ability to do that. They had the ability to do that if they had done it in a generic fashion, but where it was for Disney and all others or whatever under that same umbrella law, but they didn't. They did it for a specific individual. And I've heard several people already say that if they challenged it under those grounds, it'll take 5 years or whatever.
I love this.
But they'll win.
I love this. Here, the left is always saying big business isn't paying their fair share. Big business isn't doing this and big business isn't doing that. Now, when big business gets slapped down by
wait a minute, Phil, you're wrong.
But you're wrong,
Phil. You're wrong. Because it's not like Disney has not been doing their part. As a matter of fact, Disney has a fire department, fire services for that area. They have a police for that area. They have ambulances, hospitals, all kinds of things that they've been paying for years.
I mean, I would just argue that.
And there's a good reason why. For instance, Richmond has Chevron Oil in that city. Chevron has their own fire department, their own police department, and so forth. I mean, when you have a big business like that.
What I'm saying, Phil, is that the idea of them being a community, their own community, was said a long time ago, because Disney took that place was swamp. Okay, nobody wanted that. Okay, they bought it for like $1 an acre. That's how much nobody wanted it. And they turned it into something. They turned it into something very profit-making for them, and very, very profit-making for the state of Florida.
I mean, I'm just saying, for anybody who's upset for that argument, I mean, you can't make it about me, because I haven't been saying those things all the time for years and years. I'm saying if there's some hypocrisy on that side of it, well, that's fine. But the hypocrisy that I see in it is from the Republican side, who have said, well, yeah, businesses are corporations. They're entitled to their opinion and to give money to whoever they want. And then as soon as one of them did that in a public forum, they didn't like it, and then they punished them. So if they had kept to their Citizens United mantra that they pushed for, and that they have their own hand-picked Supreme Court in power now, who will uphold that law, that's one of the ones they were worried about. As soon as one corporation came out and said something they didn't like, they punished them.
The trouble is the Republican.
I'm telling you that when the government starts punishing people or corporations for things that they say,
Josh,
equals fascism.
Josh, what the problem is that Republicans are Republicans until it affects them personally. You know, and then forget all the conservative leanings that they have, and Citizens United and all that other crap. All of a sudden, their tune changes.
And I always said a Democrat's a Democrat until he gets mugged.
Well, the old my old line about liberals is, liberal is someone who is someone who's 10 degrees to the left in good times and 10 degrees to the right when it affects them personally. Right. So whatever.
But that's how I see it. I mean, I see the hypocrisy there. I mean, corporations apparently were people, but they didn't treat them like a person here. They didn't, at all.
Yeah. So anyway, that's some of the stuff that's going on. We didn't even get to Oklahoma and their abortion thing, but we'll get to that some other time.
We'll have to tweet about it.
You will have to tweet about it, right? Hey, listen, there's our theme song, and boy, it's been a good little show tonight. Except for Phil trying to keep his.
That's with my camera.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't ever screw around with your camera while we're on the air. Have you learned your lesson?
Don't ever. That was horrible.
Well, I kind of like it. My hair was turning green. I was trying to fix it.
Well, we don't. I never do anything before the show. Right, just before the show, because I know if I do, it's going to screw something up.
But your hair doesn't turn green.
Oh, I can make it turn green. You want to see? Anyway.
Take your hat off.
Oh, look, I became more purple when I did that. Yeah, more red or whatever. Hey, listen, that's it for tonight. Thank you all. I really appreciate your coming by and having our little Happy Fizzies party here, Alan and Josh and Kevin and Jeff, and of course the smallest guy on our panel tonight, Phil. Not very many callers tonight. Maybe eventually I'll get to the point where there's only one person calling, and it'll just be Josh and I. And then maybe later, halfway in the show, Kevin will call, and it'll feel like Saturday night. Anyway, everybody give yourself a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye as well as we say good night to our citizen panel. There they go, folks. And let me see here. Let me just do a little getting rid of them here so that we can. Jack Bishop is next. He's here with The Intersection. Yes, he's here with The Intersection. The Intersection is next. He's going to take your calls on Skype at GabNet Live We'll be back again on Monday on Facebook at 4 o'clock with our pop-up show, and you can also find that on YouTube after it's been done. We then post it over there as well. And in the meantime, we'll see you then again on Wednesday at 10:30 for more of The Ramble. In the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Good night, everybody. Have a nice weekend.